The buildings in today's video seem to defy physics altogether. From a barn balanced on a hill to a structure that contorts as you drive by. On this episode of Built a Billion, we take a look at structures that defy gravity. And stay till the end of the video to see the most impressive structure of them all. Tea house on the tree. The Japanese have an affinity for combining modern living with nature. Japanese architect Teranobu Fujimori designed the tea house built too high, also known as the tea house on the tree, which is the perfect place to escape the world and meditate to your heart's content. It's a simply designed Japanese tea house, elevated in the air by two chestnut tree trunks, essentially making it a house on stilts. It only has one room and achieves the Japanese minimalist aesthetic. I'll just trust the architect knew what he was doing and that it won't fall over. Endless Bridge. In Minneapolis, Minnesota, the Endless Bridge was opened in 2006, and despite the name, the Endless Bridge does actually end, and it's not really a bridge. Talk about a misnomer. It's actually a lookout point that can give its visitors a unique view of the Mississippi River, the largest river in the United States. The bridge is part of the Guthrie Theater and extends 200 feet north of the building, and admission to it is completely free. I still would never stand under that bridge though. Balancing Barn. The balancing barn appears to balance perfectly atop a small hill in Suffolk, UK. It looks like that with one step in the wrong place, this thing would come tumbling down, but the Dutch architecture firm MDRVD designed it so that would never happen. The balancing barn is a one-story tall structure that appears to have one half of it suspended in midair, but in reality, the floating portion is supported by a single beam, barely visible at the right angles. The barn is fully furnished on the inside and available to rent, believe it or not. I'd prefer a room on the half that sits on the ground though, thanks. Museum of Tomorrow. In Rio de Janeiro, there's a museum that lets you float right above the ocean. Opened in 2015, the Museum of Tomorrow saw 1.5 million guests in its first year alone and is now one of the most visited places in the country. The stuff inside is cool, but it's the architecture that immediately draws you in. Designed by Santiago Calatrava, his vision was to create something that would illustrate the relationship between nature and the city while keeping the future in mind. This structure has solar panels and rainwater collecting its infrastructure. From afar, the museum looks like a towering structure, but upon moving closer, you'll find that it's just 15 feet above the ground. De Rotterdam Building. This building in the Netherlands is 489 feet tall and stands in the heart of the city with a view of the water. The building looks like awkwardly stacked blocks that could fall over at any minute. The top level looks off-center and off-base from the lower sections, but you better believe when a building has the audacity to look like this, all necessary precautions are usually taken. The building is a sturdy structure that's completely wind-resistant, but when passing the building by car, it gives off the illusion that it's actually contorting and moving. The building appears to rise separate and merge again, but don't get too enamored. Keep your eyes on the road. Before we move on, if you love to hear about all the mega projects of the world, please hit that subscribe button and help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. It'll really help the channel out. Now back to the video. Pole House. One of the most photographed homes in Australia, Pole House sits over Fairhaven Beach, dangling 130 feet in the air. The home was designed by Frank Dixon in the 70s as a getaway home, and to get to the house, you have to walk down a long perpendicular walkway that connects the structure to the street, and it's supported by just one thin pillar. Over the years, the elements had gotten to the house, making it increasingly fragile, leading it to have to be remodeled recently. Torre Mare Nostrum. This is an office building in Barcelona, Spain, completed in 2008 that looks like most of it is floating in mid-air. The most notable feature is a horizontal block that jets out over the main structure. The main structure of the Torre Mare Nostrum is 20 stories tall and 280 feet high, with the protrusion at 5 stories high and sticking out 131 feet away from the rest of the building. And so, how is it possible to look this way without toppling over? The answer is 4 concrete cores inside its complex design. Admittedly, this is pretty cool for an office building. Hemeroscopium house. That big word is Greek for place when the sun sets. The Hemeroscopium in Madrid, Spain looks like a weird game of Jenga with the pieces supporting each other. The structural pieces pile up to create a helix that sets out from the main support beam, and pieces get lighter as they go higher. The structure may defy gravity, but it was built in only 7 days, which seems to defy time as well. Pass Museum. In Austria, the Pass Museum looks more like a natural formation that's ready to collapse than a well-built man-made structure. Designed by an Italian architect, this structure sits in the Alpine ridge on the border of Italy and Austria. The museum is a part of a series of 5 sculptures along the Alpine Road, with this one being the main attraction. The museum is built 8,230 feet above sea level and extends for 52 feet, with the entrance being in Austria. Once you make it out of the other floating end, you're in Italy. What do you think about these structures that defy gravity? Which one would you like to visit? Let me know in the comments below. In the meantime, click a video on the screen that you haven't seen, and thanks for visiting Built a Billion.